We live drums.
Hi, I'm Gary France, and I'm continuing my video series on the snare drum. This particular drum that I've got in my lap right here, this is a drum I picked up in Calcutta, India. I travel a lot around the world, and I often pick up bits and pieces during my tour. But I thought this one was unique, and I'd like to share that with you, in that it takes us back a couple centuries, maybe 1 century in the development of the drum. We'll have some close-ups that will cut in and out, and you'll see some very interesting things. First of all, the skin itself, on this particular skin, this is a calf skin, and it has a different sound entirely to our plastic skins. The snare strainer is nothing more than a little bit of a nut here on the side of the drum, right, which I can loosen. And the actual snares are catgut. So this is, and you know, when I was traveling through India, I thought, wow, I should get one of those because it's not often that you find this type of rudimentary drum that would go back, 2, 3, 4, 500 years in terms of the development of what they could have. So this particular one has calf skins on top and bottom, and of course they're the same thickness. It was just what was made. The shell, as you can see, is pure brass. It's a brass shell. And the lugs and the lug nuts really are just screws on here with a little wing nut that I can turn and screw the tightness. The sound, well, it does sound quite a bit different. Right? And when I bring the snares completely off, let's see if I can play it with them completely off. Oh, I think I just have to actually pull them off a little bit. There we go. And you can hear it. To me, it has that medieval character. With a beautiful calf skin, if I compare that to this field drum, I can tighten the snares a little bit all the way around, bring up the pitch, but you know, the pitch isn't going to change all that much. If it was in the hot sun, it might change more. There we go. Now I'm going to tighten the snares, and it basically looks like a fish hook here. It looks basically like a fish hook on the side of the drum with a little J hook with a nut that I can screw. Okay? And I think you'd find plenty of these drums in the 1880s, 1890s. Early 20th century. And let's see if we can if I loosen the snares. So if I'm playing something in an orchestra that somebody says I'd like a little bit more authentic, older sound, I might pick this drum. Our first drum that I'm going to look at, this takes us forward into the 1920s. And those friends who are watching this who think that they can add some more information, I'd love to hear from you at garyfrance.com. And you can, forward some more information. This drum was made by a company, the Leedy company, L-E-E-D-Y, and in Indianapolis. And it actually has their name engraved on the rim. I'm sorry, we won't get much of a close-up because it would be very hard to catch that. But it has beautiful brass hardware. And this finish, I think we can get sort of a close-up on the finish a little bit, is gold sparkle paint. Gold sparkle paint. And this is part of a drum kit, which was actually the same vintage that Chick Webb would have been playing with Ella Fitzgerald. And when we look at our drum kits in later videos, I'll bring in that beautiful kit with the bass drum and all the parts that go with it. Now this one had what were called snappy, these were spring snares, and if you see, I can actually stretch them. They're like springs here. You can see me stretching them on the bottom of the drum. And they had a loose sort of feel, like that. And they certainly didn't get that tight rock and roll sound that we've grown accustomed to in the 1960s and 70s. But it also has calf skins. With the snares off, which I think is a little bit of a production number on this boy, it would sound very much like a nice old tom-tom. Okay, but that's our beautiful Leedy. Our next snare drum we're going to have a look at. And I might add that I got most of these drums I find, believe it or not, in garage sales and places where we pick up pick up antiques, and it's been wonderful to go hunting for things like that. This is a Ludwig of about the same vintage, but you can see it's a metal shell. This might have been one of our first metal shells, and it had a place for snares. The snares are no longer on this one, but I bought it. Basically, it was just a beautiful drum that I picked up, and I look forward to restoring it one day. Again, a calf skin on the top, and a fantastic sound. You know, you hear that. And with the plastic skin that I fitted on the bottom, sounds a little bit not quite as nice as that beautiful gut, but I mean calf skin, but it's a beautiful drum nonetheless. Our next drum, this takes us to our 1930s, and this is a drum, an Ajax drum, not unlike the Ajax company that we see in the Roadrunner cartoons and things like that. No, actually Ajax it's an English company, part of Boozy and Hawks, and it says it right on there. And this is a heavy brass shell. And what is really interesting, I think we can probably get a close-up of the inside of this drum, and I'm going to sort of try and get it so we can really see it, but there's a major apparatus inside the drum in terms of the snare unit. Our snares are now a much more refined, really interesting snare. This is a silk wrapped with wire, not unlike a guitar string, like the low E string of a guitar. And each one of these snares, we have a tiny little screw on the strainer so I can tighten each snare individually. Okay, each one individually can be tightened with a screwdriver, so you had a lot of control over the drum, and for the 1930s, 1940s, that was really incredible. They also had a mechanism in the strainer itself, which we see here, that allowed the whole snare drum mechanism to move together rather than just pull one side. So it moves together to get equal tension on the snares. We have one loose snare here, which probably should come off the drum, but it actually has a much brighter sound, and it's just a gorgeous drum. Again, one that I will refurbish a little bit more. And on the inside of the drum, up in here, and on the side, you have this little dial which appeared for the first time. And this is a muffler. It's a little thing that goes up against the top skin that dampens the skin. Isn't that interesting? And so our drums became more sophisticated in the 1930s and 40s, and that's a beautiful Boozy and Hawks drum. These are all part of my collection. One more drum which I wanted to share with everybody today, this beautiful mother of pearl drum. This is a Slingerland Radio King. And this was from the 1940s, mid-1940s. And this is the same drum that Gene Krupa would have played with the Benny Goodman Group. This drum, it says Radio King right on it. Beautiful brass fittings, but this one is a maple shell. As we can see, we have a bearing edge made out of maple on the inside. And we've got a lovely dampener in the back of the drum that you can see. It's now a much more refined dampener. I can screw up and two things go up into the drum, two big red pads, right? It's a deeper drum, so it gets a little bit deeper sound. And you can really hear, Carrie, if you could come on over. Let me just, actually what I'll do is I'll just put it on this drum, this stand right here. This is a beautiful sounding drum. And you know, you can really hear the sound. Of course, I could tighten it up a lot more and put the snares on, but really it's gorgeous. And the skin that I have on this drum is made by the Sonar Company. I'm not sure they're made anymore, but it's a calf skin head that was all in one piece that allowed you to just drop it on like a current head. Okay, we're just powering through the collection of drums right now. I think the other drum that I wanted to share with you is this tenor drum back here. Okay, we have a name in the family of drums, and this will be our last drum in the snare drum family that I introduced, called field drums or tenor drums. And this was basically a large wooden shell with the skin on the top and the skin on the bottom. And these were used for marching. These type of drums would also be played to add some variety and different timbres to the set of snare drums and bass drums that we're playing. And this is a field drum, okay? And in Stravinsky's Soldier's Tale, he uses a large collection of snare drums, and this might be one that I'd use for the lower drum in there. Thank you very much.
We live drums.